Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the SmashPod, brought to you by SmashUp Fantasy Sports, the only next-gen fantasy sports game where you can select your players, select your Smash cards, and then dominate your opponents. We are Chef and Hawk, and we're here to talk some fantasy today with you. I'm here with my boy Hawk, so I want to say what's up to Hawk. How's it going, man? How are you doing?
Good. I am in Hawaii. The Niners are 1-0. My fantasy team, not so much, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So,
Yeah.
mixed news for week one.
Wait, which one? You're probably in several leagues, right?
Most of them, actually. It's I.
That was a blanket statement. You're like, they're all of my teams are.
I have PTSD. A lot of them have different players, so it's just I'm
Oh,
staring
man.
at all of them. One, I was like right on the cusp, and that late Jets garbage touchdown brought the Niners D down just enough. I lost by
Oh.
a fraction of a point to Alex.
No, I mean I'm glad the Niners won. They looked really good, by the way. Their defense looks back to the way it should. But I had CMC in two differently. I had CMC in a SmashUp lineup. I was able to change that out late because obviously our format allows for that. But in another league that I'm in with you, I had CMC and no way to get Jordan Mason late, and that tanked my week though.
Well, look, I just want to give a little shout out, Alex. If you're watching this, shove a fork in it. All right. He messaged me right after that touchdown. So,
Oh shit, yeah. Yeah, lot to talk about from week one, a lot to be excited about, a lot to panic about. So we're gonna try to sift through some of that. We're gonna talk a little bit about our takes from Smash Up in week one. We're gonna talk about some of the players that we are excited about their performances, and maybe some others where we aren't sure if we should be focusing on that as their performance to expect going forward. So we're going to get through all of that. We're going to start things off with a little bit of news. And I think we were just getting some updates up into the last few minutes before getting started here. But Shannon Sharp, Uncle Shay, he was fired from ESPN, I think not too long ago, but the news was trickling in throughout the day. He was fired for going live on IG Live during some activities, as he was calling them. And it was inappropriate, obviously. He went live. People could hear him. They could hear his friend in whatever activities they were doing. But it wasn't a good look overall. And from what I just read recently, he ended up admitting that it was him. At first, it said like his staffer had put out some IG story saying like, that wasn't me. I was hacked, but it was him, and he admitted to it. But yeah, not a good look for Shannon Sharp.
yeah, I think he's kind of creeping into Deshaun Watson territory here. He better rein it in. He's going to wind up getting hired to play for the Browns.
No one wants that job.
No,
You don't want that job.
No, although he might be an upgrade for them.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely would be an upgrade. I have some Amari Cooper shares, so I'm rooting for Shannon Sharp to play QB.
Cooper's watching this podcast right now, going, "Whoa, really? We can get Shannon Sharp? Where do I get him to go to massage parlor? What do I do next?"
Dude, Watson looks so terrible. Did you watch that game? He looks so terrible out there. I'm really concerned about Amari Cooper.
I'm hoping it's week one.
And you know what? You've been pumping up. You got in my head. You've been pumping up Amari Cooper. You even, I think, on our last pod, that was one of your big hot takes. Is you thought he'd be a top 12 wide receiver. You still stand by that?
Yeah, I still think it's better. Look, he's played with Watson the last 2 years. It's week one. No one plays preseason. But we'll talk some more about this. What's real? What's fake? But I think the Browns have better days ahead.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Or else Amari Cooper will be a big steaming pile of trash sitting on my bench for a long time, and it will be your fault. Let's head into our first fantasy segment. We're going to be breaking down the Chef and Hawk's biggest week one reactions fantasy-wise. Some of the headlines coming out of there. So let's talk about it. First off, and we talked a little bit about how do we think about tight ends in the draft during draft season? And this is a big reason why you wait on tight ends, right? But the top tight ends did absolutely nothing in week one. So what was your take on that? What was your observations there?
So we just spent the last couple of weeks talking about like the steals we got, like $9 for Kincaid, $7 per Pitts. We overpaid. That was $7 too many based on week one. But like with a lot of this stuff, I think you've got to give it time. One of the things we don't talk about enough is, I don't know if you remember when you're younger, like teams used to actually play in the preseason. First couple weeks, they play the starters a quarter. Eventually they'd go a half. Now there are teams that do not play their starters all in the preseason.
Yeah. But
Week one could be sloppy.
I don't know what the solution is, because the week one product ends up suffering, right? It's like you don't know what's going to happen. Everyone's treating it as like a ramp up game. And it's like, so week one is basically preseason. You know what I mean? It's like, It's like trash football. We'll get to some other headlines from week one as well, because there's some stats that are interesting to see from the overall performance. But yeah, tight ends, like Kelsey sucked. Laporta was bad. Kincaid was terrible. McBride was okay. But then you got like Njoku and Ferguson got hurt in the same game. And
same game.
I have Ferguson in like 6 leagues. He was, I'm talking about him all off season. He's my big play, and then bam, gets hurt in week one. So at least the tight ends really sucking across the board kind of softened the blow a little bit. But there's one tight end that did really well, and we'll talk about him in a little bit as well. But on that note, there was terrible QB play around the league. So another headline, maybe less fantasy related, but it impacts fantasy, right? But saw a couple stats. More than half of the starting QBs in the league did not reach 200 yards passing. That's incredible in this day and age of like a vertical passing game, right? So that's crazy. And in total across the NFL, we had the fewest passing touchdowns in 1 week since 2007.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Cool. All right. Next headline from a fantasy perspective is Cooper Kupp, man. He's back. Unfortunately, it's because Puka got hurt. You never want to see that. It does change the Rams offense a little bit. Obviously, it becomes even more consolidated, but that means it's all going to Kupp. What'd you love about Cooper Kupp this week?
I mean, the opportunity. Again, I think one of the formulas we always talk about on the show is fantasy success is skill plus opportunity plus a little bit of luck, right? And I think that, Kupp was already going to eat Nakua a bit. We had talked before about how Nakua were a little colder on him. Throw in the opportunity now, and Kupp is going to feast, at least till Nakua gets back. And it could be a while.
Yeah, I mean, Puka's on the IR, so at least 4 weeks. Kupp has such a connection with Stafford. I mean, Stafford has no problem going to him 21 times in a game. He had 14 catches. I mean, Cooper Kupp is essentially, he could basically push for wide receiver 1 during these next 4 to 5 weeks that Puka is out. So,
now, you want to know one thing that's really crazy, though? I look back. I kind of remember Kupp getting this treatment all the time. I look back at like the incredible 2021 and start of the 2022 season.
Yeah.
In 2021, he basically sat between 9 and I think his max was 15 targets in a week, which was one time. So, I mean, the targets he got, the volume he got this week was more than even back in his 1,900 yard, 16 touchdown season in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. And I talked about this on my quick recap pod, but I played catching smoke on him, and that was 2 points per reception. So he had 14 catches. So that was 28 points. It was a crazy, crazy game for Cooper Kupp, but it sounds like he is back, because I know a lot of people were concerned about the injuries from the last couple of years, the opportunity with Puka arriving last year, but due to circumstance, wide receiver 1 Cooper Kupp is back. Speaking of big performances, some breakouts that we saw, and we just mentioned this, Jaden Daniels had a huge week. He dropped like 28 from a fantasy perspective. Some other names that we saw big breakout performances from were J.K. Dobbins. Isaiah Likely had that big game on the initial Thursday night against the Chiefs. You had Jordan Mason stepping in for, I guess, a last-minute scratch. There was a little drama there with CMC, but Jordan Mason ran all over the Jets on Monday night, and he racked up around 150 yards and a touchdown. Could have had 2. Debo vultured one from him. I don't know if you saw it. Debo had a holding penalty on Jordan Mason's touchdown run, and then the next play, Debo gets the carry and scores a touchdown. Like, you can't be any more selfish than that.
I think he did it on purpose.
Yeah, probably. Any of those other breakouts that you've seen, or any of those breakouts that you have any thoughts on that you saw?
No, I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see how they hold up. I mean, Mason, I think, is for real as long as CMC is out. Dobbins has always had the talent. He's just got to stay healthy. Some of the others a little bit more questionable. So enjoy the ride while it lasts, but just be prepared to pull.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of CMC and some of those injuries, I mean, we saw a lot of injuries already, unfortunately. CMC was out. T. Higgins was out. We saw Jordan Love get hurt, which hurts because I have him in the league. We talked about Ferguson, Njoku, so some tight ends already being wiped out. Mostert is out. He was already ruled out for this week. Rome Odunze is week to week. Puka obviously got hurt, which is creating opportunity for Cooper Kupp. Jordan Addison got, the list is just like massive already, which we expect, but damn, to see it week 1 is tough. And it feels like fantasy managers have to start rearranging and scrambling like immediately. But I want to ask you, man, like, so of all these injuries that you're seeing, like, which one of these do you think is going to create some opportunity for other players to step in? I mean, we talked about Mason, but what else are you seeing?
Yeah, so let me actually take the opposite direction because I think there's a lot, and I think you have some thoughts on players where they're going to maybe do better, the backups. The one I want to flag for people is the Green Bay situation. Love, if he goes down, like Jaden Reed looked phenomenal. We know that Josh Jacobs, a big signing, obviously started a little slow, but still had a good game. They've got a really strong wide receiver room. Even Musgrove isn't bad as a tight end, as like a streaming option.
Musgrave. Yeah, Musgrave.
Musgrave. Thank you.
Gross. I was like, who's that?
Oh, dang it. It sounds like a clone you'd wear. But
Musgrove for men. Okay. Go ahead.
Strong enough for a man, strong enough for a woman. I don't know. So if Love is out, though, Malik Willis, like, man, if you watched his 2 plays or if you watched him at all in Tennessee, he is just a significant downgrade. And I don't think that Malik Willis connection. Oh, sorry, the Willis. Oh, I messed up my own joke.
What's new, bro?
I don't think that Willis Reed connection is the same as
Malik Willis, Jaden Reed, right?
Yeah. The
Okay.
connection's not the same. So, look, if Love is down, huge downgrade across the board for the Green Bay offense.
Yeah. That's
but
terrible.
With that said, who do you like? What about the opposite?
I think Mason showed that he could step in for CMC. I like that. Mason looks good. He runs hard, but I love what that San Francisco offensive line was doing. So it looks like they're going to open big holes for him. We talked about Cooper Kupp. So, Puka's injury is going to open things up for him. It's probably going to create a little bit of like Demarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson effectiveness. So you might see some weeks here and there where they pop, and those are guys that people are grabbing off the waiver wire. Mostert being out, I love Devon Achane, right? And so this opens things up for Achane to really just step in and really take that running back 1 position in Miami, just take it by the stranglehold and just like make that his. People are always waiting for most to get hurt, and damn, he got hurt week 1 already. So the thing about Achane is like he's already banged up too. So there's a little bit of a watch on if he'll be healthy for the Thursday night game.
So it's maybe someone else for listeners that they should be thinking about in Miami if the worst happens here.
Yeah, I think people are going back and forth between Jalen Wright and also Wilson. But I think Wilson's the man there between the two. Just because Wright is a rookie, Wilson is someone that they trust, right? Like even last game, Wilson was getting some short yardage play. He got some carries in a game where Achane and Mostert were healthy. So why would they all of a sudden, with a short week and not knowing their status, all of a sudden implement a rookie 4th rounder as a running back? Like I think he'll get some rotation and he'll get some run in because he's a healthy body. But Jeff Wilson's the one you want for this week. If both are hurt, if Achane is playing, he'll get the majority of the shares. Wilson will still work in. You might see a right carrier too, but Wilson's the person I've picked up in a couple leagues.
Well, Mostert was ruled out quick. So, I mean, even if, Achane starts this week, you may want to put Wilson on your bench.
Yep, for sure. Speaking of injuries, I think Deshaun Watson is probably someone that fans wouldn't mind being hurt. So,
Deshaun Watson, he's probably like a fan of this podcast, and he's listening. He's like,
"There's no way."
The fudge guy, what did I do? I'm just sitting here in my living room and getting attacked by my favorite podcast.
There's no way he's a fan of this. We don't talk about massage parlors at all, so there's no way he's listening.
Wait, I think we actually have him. Like
actually, yeah. Maybe he's like, "Hey, I should check this out. It's called the SmashPod." He just has a totally different inclination of what this pod is actually about. All right.
Anyway, I gotta let this go. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about some of the performances. I know this is like it's pretty early in the season. It's week 2, but it's panic season already for some of these performances. We're calling this segment Fluke or Forreal. And Hawk and I are going to give a thumbs up or thumbs down. So thumbs up, meaning we think it's for real, or thumbs down if we think it's a fluke based on the performances we saw in week 1. So we're going to try to cycle through some of these. First up, we have Saquon Barkley's performance on Friday night. 109 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown. This was essentially like running back 1 type performance overall. Is this for real or is it a fluke?
1, 2, 3.
I already went up. False start.
You're already penalized on the play.
All right. So tell me why.
Yeah, and you might remember Saquon was someone that Look, was obviously a first round pick in a lot of leagues, second round in some, but I was really high on him. Said he was a guy who could push for RB1 overall. And so, way too early in the season, be taking a victory lap. But the Eagles, they've got that amazing offensive line, one of the best 2 or 3 in the league. They have an offense and players you have to respect. And with Kelsey retired, you know, Hurts will still run the ball in some, but the era of nonstop tush push, I think, is done. And with Saquon instead of Swift, you saw already in the first game, they're going to give him some of those opportunities to get into the end zone. It's going to be a great year for him if he stays healthy.
Yeah, definitely. So 2 thumbs up there. We both agreed this Saquon performance is for real. Maybe not 3 touchdowns a game. He's not going to score 51 touchdowns. But I think we both saw, I was telling that I didn't see any tush pushes. So Hurts got no rushing touchdowns. Saquon got 3, or got 2, sorry, I should say 3 overall. So I think we're
only in Shannon Sharp's household were there tush pushes this week.
Don't go on IG Live, Jay. All right, next up we got Isaiah Likely, 9 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown out there in Baltimore. Is this fluke or is this for real? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Are we doing sideways?
Wait, we did last time. I don't know. I'll go thumbs down.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to make a call. Like, draw a line in the sand. You going thumbs down?
I'm going thumbs down.
Okay, I'm going thumbs up. Just really quickly, I don't think it'll be 111 yards and a touchdown every week, but I think he's carved out a real role for himself. So I think he's gonna be doing some things. You think he's gonna fade away?
The funny thing is, I think we had opposite signs. We're gonna probably come close to. I think it's gonna be up and down. I think we talked a little bit the other day. There's inconsistencies. Andrews is gonna get his looks. Henry's gonna have games with more yards. There's gonna be more games where Baltimore's leading by a lot the whole way. So obviously not 111 yards. That's huge. But I won't even be thinking like 60, 70, 80 a game, like a Laporta type season last year. I think he'll have some spike games, but he will be more involved than he was last year.
Okay. All right. Next one is Jameson Williams. 5 catches, 121 yards. Looks big time, right? And a touchdown. He had a long tutty. All right. On 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. 2 thumbs up. Tell me why.
I love JMO, man. He's had all the potential in the world. A guy I've had on my team and cut a couple of times when he's had some injuries or stuff now work out. 72% win rate against zone. I think it was 2 in contested catches and 5 in ADOT or average depth of target. So the talent is there. Now, I will say, so I think he's real. I think as an NFL player, and I think especially in a best ball league, you've got to be thrilled. He's going to have some big games. This is not kind of a 1-week fluke. With that said, I will say that the Lions are a team that does spread the ball around.
Yeah,
Dan Campbell has shown himself to be a flexible coach who will take advantage of exploiting matchups, ride the hot hand. He's not someone who's going to force the ball, even to his number 1 receiver a lot. So they won't all be this week. And maybe, let me ask you about this, maybe a little bit of a reason to panic about Amon-Ra St. Brown or some of the rest of the other players. Do you think that Jameson could actually take some targets away from other guys?
Well, let's see. He's the next one on our list. Amon-Ra last week, 3 catches, 13 yards. Is that a for real? Is that a fluke? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right, we agree. So that's a fluke. I don't think Amon-Ra's getting 3 catches for 13 yards every game. So there's going to be some democracy in that offense that we haven't seen in the past. So things will open up a little bit, but Amon-Ra's going to be Amon-Ra. I'm not too concerned about that.
Fluke. But could this move him from like a guy you took in the top 5 to maybe thinking he's going to finish closer to that 10 to 15 range?
Perhaps. I mean, we'll see. I mean, one game from Jameson, I don't know. We'll see if he can do it like on a consistent basis week over week. So we've seen Amon-Ra do it consistently before. So I put some stock into that. All right. So next up, Jaden Reed, 4 catches, 138 yards. He had a receiving touchdown. He had a 33-yard rushing touchdown. I know Love got hurt, so that changes things. We just talked about this, but is this for real or is this a fluke? On 3.
All right, are we saying who's the quarterback? Does that matter here?
We talk about things in the frame of the reality that we're in, right? So is this for real or is this a fluke? On 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, yeah, we agree. 2 thumbs down. This is a fluke. I think we could both agree this is not going to happen, at least for not a while. All right, next up, we've got Marvin Harrison Jr. We're going to try to fly through some of these. We got a few more. Marvin Harrison Jr., 1 catch, 4 yards on only 3 targets. Wah, wah, wah. Just a terrible performance. All right,
This was
on
like I
three.
could have been the number 3 pick. If he was 2, I could have been 3, right?
You could have put up one catch for 3 yards. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. On three. 1, 2, 3. All right. I think we both know this is a fluke. I think he will have better days. He can't have worse. Technically, he could. He could go catchless. But he's too talented to not be better going forward. I think they are going to make a concerted effort to get him more involved, especially after this game. It's a headline now, right? But it is concerning. He had some metrics that were terrible from that game. He had some of the worst separation numbers in the last 5 years out of starting wide receivers. He was one of the slowest wide receivers from a movement perspective on the field. There was just some crazy things related to athleticism that he was ranked so low in. It's like, this guy should not be playing like that as like a top elite prospect. And the concern is partially there because he didn't go through combine training. So you didn't get some of those measurables on those metrics of athleticism, which is like, did he not measure because he knew there were some deficiencies there? Anyway, that's a little bit of conspiracy theory. I think he'll be better, but just something interesting to see because you don't expect those type of metrics from an elite prospect. All right, we're going to keep this moving. And the next one on the list is Chris Olave. Forreal or Fluke? 2 catches, 11 yards on only 2 targets in a 47-point output by the Saints. On 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. We disagree. I have a thumbs up and you have a thumbs down. So you think this is a fluke?
I'll say in short. I mean, they didn't need him. They scored in other ways. I'm not the biggest Olave fan. I did not want to be taking him where he's going the second round. So if I'm an Olave owner, I'm concerned. With that said, he's been in the league several years. This performance, it will obviously get better than this.
I think he'll have better days. I'm just concerned that you'll get a lot of these days, especially in a 47-point win. He should be a part of that as your second round pick. He went second round for a lot of
By
teams.
the way, is that one of the worst feelings as a fantasy owner in any sport when you like maybe didn't see the game, you go to the box score, you're like, wow, I've got the star of a team that won, 47-9. Like, how many points did I get? 20, 30, 50? And wah wah, as you would say. That's like the worst feeling.
All right, so for our last one, Xavier Worthy, 2 catches. He had an explosive performance. 2 catches, 47 yards. He had a touchdown from a reception perspective. He also had 21 yards rushing and a rushing TD, so a 2-touchdown effort. Fluke or Forreal? On 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 2 thumbs down. This was definitely a fluke. Tell me why. Tell me why.
Wow.
I had to get that one in there before we wrap things up.
No, so I think it's a fluke. I think Worthy might actually be this good, and I think as an NFL player and having an impact for the Chiefs this year, yes. 3 targets, 1 rushing attempt, 2 just very big, amazing touchdowns. You cannot count on that. Hollywood Brown's not even there. They have enough players who are going to demand targets. I don't think the targets are there to sustain this kind of fantasy production.
Yeah, I just think that he's going to be one of those players that they use from like a gadget perspective. They have a very creative playbook. He'll be worked in, but he's not a volume guy. But he's explosive, and he makes that offense super scary, right? So they just got another weapon to utilize, and then once they get Hollywood Brown back, that's going to squeeze him, but it'll just make that offense more scary as a whole. So great. More Chiefs and Mahomes scariness. Love it. Not really. All right, that wraps up our Fluke or For Real segment. We'll see how these play out, and maybe we'll revisit and see if they actually, became sustained or not. All right, let's move to our SmashUp segment. Let's talk about SmashUp. First week in the books. It was exciting, man. I mean, obviously we played in a couple leagues together and some separately, but we do want to track along our industry league because that's the one that contains some of our friends from places like Fantasy Pros and Player Profiler, Fantasy Football Edge, Daily Dynasty, some of these guys that we want to see if we can beat and take down. I think we're pretty good. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm not saying you're the best. I'm not just saying you're any good even, but maybe you might have a good week or two in you. But
these are legit experts, right? These are money makers. So
yeah, for sure. All right, we're gonna track along as the season goes because we want to see how everyone stacks up. So we're gonna, at least this week 1, we're gonna show the standings as they are now. And we're going to pop that up on the screen. So if you're watching along here, you can see this is the Battle Royale Industry and Pros League. And this is the current set of standings. So with SmashUp in league mode right now, it is a total points type of approach to victory. So you're accumulating points week over week. And at the end of the season, it's the individual with the most aggregate points wins. So from week 1, you can see in first place is American Kaiju, and that's a friend of ours from Player Profiler. He had a big output, 190 points in week 1. And your boy, Chef, a.k.a. Smash God, is riding into second. So I'm close behind, 185 points. I'm only 5 points behind.
Nice.
That's like really close. And then let's see, where are you at?
Top 10.
Top 10 out of the 11 teams I see. That's awesome, man. But hey, you know what? You're 118 points. You're not that far behind, actually. Like one big week could catapult you right back up to the top. It looks like you did really well from a player points perspective. So your lineup was on point. It just looks like maybe the card selection fell a little flat. So maybe that's something you can work on for this.
It's like getting lucky and forgetting to turn off your live stream. It's just a thing that happens. You got to get it all right.
You do. I'm pretty sure you'll have a big second week. So I know you're competitive. You're not gonna let yourself be down in
Fighting
8th
back.
place for very long. Yeah. All right. So we'll keep following along, and maybe in future weeks we'll look at some different lineups. But that's where we stand after week 1. Your boy's in second, American Kaiju's in first, and Hawk is rounding up the rear as the usual.
Oh,
so
whoa, upper
Yep.
rear,
upper rear, lower back.
top of the to you.
Whoa. All right.
Also, where my tattoo is.
All right. Let's talk Smash Up. Let's talk about some of our calls from last week, and let's see where we landed on them. I know our hit rate wasn't that great, like when I was going back and looking at it. So let's go to last week's list. So some of my calls for the Smash starts were Josh Allen with Mr. Relevant. Got that wrong. He didn't hit Mr. Relevant. He was actually like 15 passing yards shy, so really close, but missed out on that one. He still had a big game, but missed out on that combo. I had Devon Achan and Freight Train. Again, wrong. Missed that one. He didn't have a big 30-yard carry. Actually, they were stifled. He had like 24 yards rushing total. He had a big day overall, but definitely missed out on that one. That running game looks a little out of whack right now. And then my third one was the Chargers defense versus the Raiders. Man, hit that one big. So I called 2 of them. Defense wins championships, which is 15 points if the team wins. They had a win. And takeaway card, that was a huge one. So that gives you 5x points on turnovers. They caused 3 turnovers. So I hit on a couple of different cards on the Chargers. So that was a big one that I hit on, but only unfortunately 1 out of the 3. How about you, Hawk? How are the 3 that you had recommended?
So similar hit rate. I started with Justin Herbert and Cannon Arm to maximize his passing. And well, it wasn't quite as black or white as, say, did someone get like an unstoppable freight train? But again, I'm going to call it a loss. It was not, I did not have a great game. So a waste of some of your card salary cap to put that on him. Second, I just want to start with my second loss so I can like end on a win like you. So I'm going to go to Kyle Pitts, even though it's my third call. I did end zone as lava thinking, hey, he could get a lot of yards and just maybe not sniff the end zone. Exact opposite. Scored a touchdown. I think 23, 26 yards. So just horrible overall.
Yeah, by the way, that Atlanta offense it makes me nervous. We could talk about that in a future pod, but Kirk Cousins did not look healthy.
He looked like a 35-year-old coming off of major surgery.
Like an Achilles surgery.
Yeah, shocking.
Yeah. All right, the last one.
And then third one was Aaron Jones with all-pro running back that doubles the score. Ding, ding. That was my win. He had a big
huge
week,
game.
something like
huge
19
game. 96
points.
yards or something like that.
Yeah, double that up with his card. You'll take that any day of the week. So, also, 1 of 3. So let's maybe see a little better this week.
All right. Well, let's dive into our 3 recommendations for this week. Hopefully, we can have a better hit percentage. So I'll kick things off. So my first recommendation is Bo Nix. I know before anyone starts saying like Bo Nix, but Bo Nix with Goldfish memory. So Bo Nix, and this is the beauty of SmashUp, right? Is like you can predict reverse outcomes or negative outcomes and actually get points for them, right? So Bo Nix he's only 5K. He's one of the cheapest quarterbacks you can play. So if you grab Bo Nix, this will allow you to stack quality players in other areas of your lineup. And then if you apply Goldfish Memory, which is $4,000 for that Smash card, you turn a -2 for every turnover that your quarterback does into 8 points. So it's basically like a 10-point turnaround. So every interception, every fumble, that's 8 points. Well, Bo Nix, he threw 2 picks last week. And you know what? He's playing Pittsburgh this week. Pittsburgh forced 3 turnovers last week, including 2 picks. And Mr. TJ Watt, speaking of Kirk Cousins, he was hunting Kirk Cousins last week. He's going to be hunting some Bo Nix this week. He's going to be disrupting that pass game for Denver. So I like Bo Nix, Goldfish Memory. Put in your lineups. That's my first one.
Bo don't know diddly, but he do know turnovers.
Yeah, you do know turnovers. All right, what's your first one, and then I'll go after you.
So I'm going to go a little opposite approach. After Herbert disappointed me, I'm going to go for more of a star quarterback. If I was forming a team, I'm just going to spend more of my budget here. I'm going to get Pat Mahomes. He's going for, I think, about 7,000. And I'm going to play a card called This One's for Mahomie. And with this card, you basically, it's one for completion percentage. So you get a point for every completed pass. You lose half a point for every incomplete. So I think this week, last week against the Ravens, tough defense. Mahomes had a good NFL game, but not his best fantasy game. I think this week against the Bengals, he comes back strong. I think they're going to throw all over the field, and I think that he's going to get 20-plus points with this card. And do it for about 4.5K of your Smash card salary cap. So really efficient on all counts. So I think this is going to be a winning combo for me.
Okay. So my second one is I'm going to keep it with KC and Cincinnati. I'm going with Isaiah Pacheco, running back for KC versus Cincy, and playing the All-Pro RB card. So Isaiah Pacheco going for 6,900. All-Pro RB is going to go for 5,500 from a card perspective. But Cincy's defense was a sieve from the running back perspective. Like, they could not stop the run. They gave up 120 yards to Ramondre Stevenson last week and the New England Patriots. Obviously, the Bengals lost that game because they could just not stop the run. They were running all over them. I really feel like, based on what you said, I feel like KC is going to get out to a quick lead. Mahomes is probably going to lead the way. And then you're going to see Isaiah Pacheco just salting that win away in the second half, probably early in the second half. I mean, part of it is that Cincy just does not look good on either side of the ball. So their offense won't be able to get anything going. They're not going to put up much of a fight. So that tells me the game script is going to lean very, very run heavy, at least towards the second half. And that means a lot of Isaiah Pacheco. It could be some garbage time yardage, could be some garbage time touchdowns. We don't care when and how they come, just as long as they come. So I think that's going to be a smash play for this week.
All my self-control.
What you got next?
And I don't know much. Jordan Mason. So look, CMC is going to be out again.
We'll unfortunately, man. Unfortunately.
I'm sad. But look, with every, they close the door, open a window. So Jordan Mason, I think he's legitimate. May not be CMC, but he's going to have a huge game.
Yeah.
Vikings have a decent defense, but I think that Mason will be able to run on them. I think the Niners have a lot of weapons. And I think at the end of the day, he's a guy you can get and cheap. I think he's going for about $5K in player cost. So real value if you spend a lot of money on someone else. And I'm just going to put starting running back on him. So only 3K. Again, I'm trying to think a little bit about the cap here, what I can get value on. So I'm going to push up his score, but I'm not going to go like Hall of Fame running back, which would be a much bigger investment. I'm going to go a little bit lighter and just kind of take the extra.
Yeah, no, I like that, right? You can't just always put like the most expensive card. You got to think about where to apply that card budget throughout your lineup. All right, my last one is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. I love me some Gibbs, but they also split that backfield right now, right? Like him and Montgomery. You saw that last game. So I think Gibbs is going to have a good game versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I want to play roll of the dice on Jahmyr Gibbs. So Jahmyr Gibbs going for 6,600. Roll the dice, super cheap, 1,500 of your $12,000 card budget. So really inexpensive for roll the dice. If your player that you play the card on plays less than 30 snaps, you get a 3x multiplier of their score. Last game, Jahmyr Gibbs, even in a pretty strong game, he had 13.4 points last week. He played 31 snaps. So I know he cleared that number, but he barely played over the 30 snap requirement. Here's the deal. Jahmyr Gibbs, he got injured towards the tail end of the preseason. He injured his hamstring. I don't think he's 100%. I think he's still working himself to 100%. I think that's why you're still seeing a really, really even distribution. And the Lions are playing at home against Tampa Bay. Similar to that last game I talked about, KC versus the Bengals. I think the Detroit Lions are going to win this game. I think it's going to be a game script that's leaning towards the run. This just seems like a David Montgomery type of game to me, where they're ahead and they're going to want to salt away that clock. So that means that Gibbs will not clear 30 snaps, but he still will play enough to maybe grab some yardage, score a touchdown, and then you 3x his points. So I actually really like this play. And I also think, you do have to take some risks, right? Like if you want some of these upside plays, you want to take a risk on a card that's only $1,500 of your card budget, and you can use the rest of the budget elsewhere.
All right. Well, I mean, you know me. I'm competitive. I can't let you get like the cheap play. I've got to try to beat you on the cheap play.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, go for it.
Fun. Coming after you.
What you got? What you got?
So I'm going to go another. I'm going to go cheap player, cheap card, but I think I can beat you. And that's Jaquan Jackson.
Who is Jaquan Jackson, by the way?
Exactly. That is what everybody right now is asking.
Yeah. Who is Jaquan Jackson?
Jaquan Jackson.
Okay, wait.
Electric.
What team is he on?
He is on the Tennessee Titans.
Did you have to look that up?
I know. I saw it and I knew about it, but not before this week. So
now I know. Yeah. He's the Tennessee Titans. Okay. Tell us about Mr. Jaquan Jackson.
So no one knows Jaquan Jackson, right? But he is the kick returner, punt returner, technically a wide receiver for the Titans. He cost a mere $3,000. Did not get a single target last week. So you do not just want to pick him and put him in your lineup. But with the card, special teams ace, you get 0.2 points for every kick return and punt return yard a player gets.
Wow.
Last year, a bit trickier because of the old rules.
No returns, yeah.
New kick return rules. Last week, he had about 127 kick return yards, about 30 punt return yards. So he gave you 30 points. And there's going to be a lot of punts in this game again.
That's
a lot of kicks.
Deal.
That is a steal right there.
I feel like we're on a commercial right now. That's a steal.
What will it take to put you behind the wheel of a Jaquan Jackson?
And if you act now, you'll get 2 Jaquan Jacksons. All you have to do is pay for shipping and handling.
Will.
So Jaquan Jackson. No, I like that, man. I might have to steal this for a lineup or two. Honestly.
Yeah. With new kick return rules, look, you can use him, you can use someone else. But the idea of like looking at a kick returner, a punt returner could yield big dividends for cheap price.
I think that's a great play. Jaquan Jackson sounds like an amazing value. That's the beauty of SmashUp, is like finding these little gems and converting them into pure value and maybe opportunities to score a ton of points.
Great.
All right.
It's all about strategy.
That's right. All right. That actually wraps up our episode. It was fun talking through week 1. It's in the books. Why don't you let everyone know where they can follow along and listen to everything SmashUp?
Yeah, so first go subscribe on whatever you're listening to, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or something else. Then go to smashupsports.com and register to play. Weekly tournament this week, $1,000 to first place. No entry fees, no pay to win. Top 20 qualifies for the Tournament of Champions with $10,000 in prizes. And then go to social media, follow us. You got us on Instagram, TikTok, pretty much Twitter, all at SmashUp Sport. They are in the description. And with that, Ming, make sure you turn off your live stream at the end of this episode.
Damn, 10K. That sounds huge, man. I hope everyone decides to sign up for those tourneys so they can get to that big daddy tourney at the end for that 10K. All right. So for Hawk, I am Chef. Thanks for listening, and we are out. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Turn it off. Don't play for the Browns.
Sorry, Jaquan Jackson. Woo! I return kicks.